Hola, comrades. Today's topic of interest, Final Fantasy VII. If there's one game in the Final Fantasy series that every fan knows, it's FF7. Released in 1997, it brought the franchise to new heights in Japan and especially in the West. This was only the fourth Final Fantasy game released in the West, and it was by far the most successful there, which was mostly due to it being this revolutionary new adventure that challenged what video games were capable of. But I can't help but think it had something to do with it being only the second game in the franchise that actually retained its correct number upon localization. I'm looking at you, Final Fantasy II, that was really Final Fantasy IV, and you, Final Fantasy III, that was really Final Fantasy VI. But, getting back on point, we know all of Final Fantasy VII's characters by heart. We know Cloud, the brooding loner, the symbol for melodramatic angst. We know Aerith, the pure-hearted, innocent girly girl whose death broke the heart of an entire generation of gamers. We know Yuffie, the hyperactive and ditzy ninja who brings the comic relief. Or do we? Final Fantasy VII is a very good game. It's not my favorite in the series, but it's a strong piece of art that has rightfully stayed popular through the years. And like many great games, its characters are complicated. They are not one-dimensional. They're flawed and intriguing, and it is vital that those complexities not be lost. I have a test for you. Everyone has a popular and highly critically acclaimed movie or show or game that they know on a surface level, but haven't actually seen or played. Whatever that is for you, take what you know about the main character and write it down on a piece of paper, just a white sheet. Now go watch or play it. When you're done, come back and write what you know about the main character on another sheet of paper. And I don't mean the things they did, but rather the person they are. Unless you played a game with a silent protagonist, the second piece of paper should have a lot more written on it. You should know the characters on more than a surface level, more than you could have as a non-viewer. And yet, many fans don't. These are the kind of people who watch and read Harry Potter, and love it, and yet think of Harry as just this kid in the glasses who mopes around and has to take down Voldemort, and Hermione just as the smart, responsible one. All complexity fades away for these fans, and they're left with a basic, one-dimensional sketch of the character in question that fails to do that character any sort of justice. They basically turn the character into a caricature of themselves. The debates over what separates real fans from fake fans are nauseating and bluntly quite stupid. If you ask me, there's practically no such thing as a fake fan. 99.99% of people who profess to like something actually do like it, and pretending otherwise because they don't know random arcane franchise trivia is beyond repulsive. There are, however, good fans and bad fans. Good fans respect the creator of the franchise without deifying them, are willing to accept growth in the franchise they love, and above all are willing to form an educated, complex opinion. As a writer myself, let me say that there is nothing that keeps us creative types happier than when someone actually inspects our work in all its intricacies instead of just coming to broad, obvious conclusions and reducing our characters and themes to shadows of themselves. Bad fans, no matter how much they salivate over the newest trailer, don't understand what they're watching, playing, or reading. They don't show enough respect to the creator and their work to judge the characters outside of simple stereotypes and cliches. A good fan trusts the creator enough to go along with their ideas. They don't hold the creator above criticism, but they don't trap the work in a box. They give it space to grow. A good fan gives part of themselves up to the works they love, allows those works to change them. Bad fans force their own narrow perspectives on the works they purport to care about. How does this play into Final Fantasy VII? Well, anyone can make a one-dimensional, brooding, angsty loner character. In fact, if LiveJournal and DeviantArt have taught me anything, it's that this is the only kind of character most teenagers can effectively create. It takes great writing, meaning strong structure, a poignant story, effective and efficient characterization, and an emotionally powerful character arc to make a character like Cloud. He's not my favorite character in the Final Fantasy series by any means, but he deserves better than to be characterized as this simple, brooding loner. If you actually play through the game, you see that he doesn't emote that often, and when he does, it's reasonable and measured. He's not this hardcore emo, don't talk about anything and then burst out melodramatically at the most inopportune times kind of character like he is in the minds of many fans. What angst he does suffer is quite rational. You empathize with him. He suffered so much, including the loss of his best friend, Zack Fair. As a response to his breakdown, he took on Zack's personality and memories without realizing it. His entire persona is a lie, and when he is forced to realize that, it cripples him, both because he has no real idea who he is anymore, and because he has to confront the death of his friend and the other traumas of his past head on. Not only is breaking down in these situations perfectly natural, it would be bad character writing to not have him break down. And the same disparity between common image and actual behavior in Final Fantasy VII can be seen in Aerith. She's not this simple, pure-hearted character who's very sweet and gentle. I've seen more than my share of characters who are nothing but goody two-shoes who exist only to manipulate the audience into saying, "Aww, isn't she?" And it almost always is a she. So sweet and loving and generous, I care so much about her. It's a substitution for actual character development. Often this character gets killed off or at least almost dies, and we're supposed to be wanting her to survive and thrive because she's so wonderful and sweet and gentle. Most of the time I'm rolling my eyes when they die and all the other characters cry, and the creators do everything in their power to convince us she was very important and that her death was this great tragedy. At first glance, Aerith appears to fall into this category. Including her into it would not be unreasonable if she was indeed nothing but what her reputation would suggest, and it would be expected for that to be the case. While this archetype is not uncommon in Western media, it completely litters Japanese works, especially anime. Watch a few melodramatic anime, and you're bound to see this play out over and over again. But Aerith deserves more credit than that. Of the two main female characters in this game, Tifa is unexpectedly the shyer and more reserved of the two. Aerith is pure-hearted and kind, yes, but she's also flirty, assertive, and passionate. She rushes into situations and sometimes says things she shouldn't. Things that make you wonder, did she really just say that? Unlike the Aerith of popular culture, the Aerith of Final Fantasy VII is actually interesting and deep and worth shedding a tear over. She's a complex character, and that is why you care about her. If you want to know the biggest reason why many writers have no clue how to write compelling characters, here it is. They don't know what makes a character compelling. I know that may sound obvious, but think about it. How do writers learn how to write characters? They watch, read, and play other works, and take what made an impression on them and put it into their own works. This is fine in its own right, but many lesser writers have no real idea why these characters made an impression on them. They just have a superficial understanding. This is why I recommend young writers read a lot of criticism. There are many subpar critics out there. I'd say probably over 90%. But there are also fantastic critics that a lot of writers should interest themselves with. What I'm saying is that if Aerith were just your typical too pure for this sinful earth type of character, her death would be expected and ordinary. You wouldn't feel anything. You'd just go, oh, I guess I should have seen that coming. And then you would move on. But because she's strong-willed and a little bit wild, in addition to being kind and warm and spiritual, her death hits you hard. You don't just see it as a storyline event. You see it as losing a character who's near and dear to your heart. For Yuffie, her character defacement hasn't been quite as egregious, as her character isn't as strong to start with, but it's still an issue. She may be a ditzy, silly ninja, but she's still a ninja. She's clever and cunning and intelligent. She can have serious conversations about serious topics. It's not like she's just this little kid who's there to make you laugh. She's rebellious and arrogant, and it's not just cute or obnoxious. It's genuine, and it's justified. You understand where she's coming from. She's looking to prove herself, and she wants to restore her beloved Wutai to its former glory. The Final Fantasy games are some of the best examples of how to build a compelling cast of characters in a work. Final Fantasy VI is renowned for that, and rightfully so. You should check out my video on that game if you have time. I'll post a link in the description. However, the true surprise is how the franchise has been able to pull it off time and time again. 6, 7, 10, 15. The best games in the franchise all have these fantastic casts. Each character has their own backstory and goals and ideals and philosophy, and the relationships between the characters all strike deep, resonant chords. I just got finished with a video on The Last of Us, and while I love that game and its core relationship between Joel and Ellie, it very much is a game about loneliness and the depression that results from it. Joel only has Ellie, and Ellie only has Joel, and that's the point. If they didn't have each other, they would have no one. It's solemn and it's depressing, and you wish they had more friends, more people they could really rely on. But you're so very glad they have each other. In Final Fantasy games, however, every character has an entire entourage of close friends and teammates they can rely on. And these aren't just cardboard cutouts of characters, they're genuine. You get to know these people, get to form relationships with them, get to see them change. They're very true and real. They make mistakes, speak from the heart, surprise you, and that's what's so wonderful about them. Which is why it saddens me to see popular culture only grasp the shallowest, most surface-level aspects of these characters. So, who's to blame? The bad fans I railed on earlier? Well, yes and no. They certainly deserve some of the blame. It depresses me that when I go online and read discussions of these characters and gain nothing from them because the so-called analysts didn't bother to do much actual analyzing. True, they are at least trying, and I give them more credit than those who don't even bother to attempt an analysis and just post some wrong-headed comments, but I know we can do so much better. However, there have been shallow, quote-unquote, bad fans for as long as franchises have existed, and they will continue to exist. They certainly don't deserve sole blame for the misrepresentation of these characters in popular culture. I brought up Harry Potter and Hermione earlier, but the popular representations of those characters are much closer to the actual essence of the characters than what I have been describing for Final Fantasy VII. Why is that? Is it because one is a game and the other is a major movie and book franchise? Well, partially, but it has more to do with the decisions Square Enix made. As I've said before, the Final Fantasy VII compilation was mostly a disaster. Crisis Core is good. Not excellent, but good. However, the rest of the compilation is mostly an embarrassment. The movie, Advent Children, most of all. People are desperate to make Final Fantasy movies, and rightfully so. It's a big, beloved name in gaming, and its stories are complex compared to the likes of Mario and Zelda. There's a lot to draw from. It looks on the surface to be easy money, but games are not the same as movies, and it is not easy to translate one medium to the other. I will defend the first real Final Fantasy movie, The Spirits Within, to some degree, but Advent Children is a disaster, as it takes these great characters and squishes them down, makes them flat and boring. Aerith being stripped of her determination and outgoing nature happened over a longer period of time, but Cloud being thought of as this angsty loner and nothing else can be traced back to this game. I have no doubt that it existed before then, but this movie advanced and popularized it. In Advent Children, you don't see Cloud, the broken and pained, but smart and awkward and genuinely funny hero of Final Fantasy VII, the guy who said, "Let's mosey." You see the shadow of Cloud, who fits the worst stereotypes of the JRPG hero. Fans who don't understand the characters of their favorite works are misguided, but there are worse things. There really are. A company that does not understand the characters in its greatest works is dangerous. They can destroy the legacies of their characters and tarnish the reputation of the works themselves. I have the same problem with the compilation as I do with Final Fantasy X-2. It's not that the characters are different that I mind, it's that they're less interesting. It doesn't feel like they've grown or been changed or what have you. It feels like they've been mutilated by people who did not understand them. Character fidelity matters. Great characters impact the lives of many players, and to see these characters be misunderstood and misinterpreted can be viscerally painful. Here's hoping that the team behind the Final Fantasy VII Remake knows the characters it has to work with and expands them instead of disgracing them. We, as a community of fans, need to do our best to treat the characters we love with the respect they deserve, and we need to do our best to make sure others do so as well. And we need to hold Square Enix and other companies responsible when they disgrace and simplify great characters. If the remake does not do Cloud and Aerith and Yuffie and everyone else justice, we have to be willing to say, no, these aren't the characters we love, and not buy the game. These games matter, and these characters matter. We need to act like it. This is my third video in the Final Fantasy series, and it won't be my last. I love this series. It really means a lot to me, and I know I'm not the only one who has a deep, personal connection with it. These games have defined many childhoods and adolescences. As wary as I act about it, I am genuinely excited for the remake of Final Fantasy VII. I can't wait for it to come out. Anyway, if you liked what you saw today, consider donating to my Patreon so I can produce more amazing content. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that superb stuff. Adios, comrades!